Welcome back to Math Concepts. In this video, we are going to continue to build on our work involving applications of sets, and we're going to do an example of a survey problem, kind of like we did in a previous video, except this is going to involve three sets. Okay, so if you haven't done this already, please make sure you watch the two previous videos in the playlist, because you'll need to know how to fill out a Venn diagram and kind of how to do a survey problem as well. All right, so this Venn diagram is going to have various regions in it, and we're going to use the information given to us in the survey to fill out the quantity of people that's appropriate for the various regions. Okay, we're going to have to pay attention to this because each region is going to be comprised of a few subregions, and the total number represented in each of those subregions has to work out. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be focusing on getting the totals to work out to what we need. So in this example, we're going to assume that the activities director on a cruise ship has surveyed 240 passengers. And here's the breakdown of what people like from swimming, dancing, and games. Okay, so there are three circles, three sets that we need to deal with. So when I make my Venn diagram, I'm going to need to account for that. Okay, now when you're doing a problem like this, you want to make sure you give yourself lots of room. Make your circles big, but also make the overlap pretty big as well. Okay, you don't want tiny little overlaps because we're going to have to write numbers in these different regions. Okay, so I'm going to label the sets swimming, S for swimming, D for dancing, and G for games. Okay, so we got swimming, dancing, and games. Now when you have a problem like this with three sets, start here. Okay, fill this out first. It's going to make everything so much easier. Okay, and that's the thing they gave us last. Okay, so 15 like all three activities. So there's 15 people in here. And then work your way up from the bottom. Okay, don't try to go from the top. That's not going to work out well for you. Go from the bottom up when you're doing this kind of problem. Okay, now, so I filled out that 15 right there. Now they tell me in the problem that 25 people like dancing and games. Okay, so I'm looking at the overlap between dancing and games, which is this right here. Okay, so the overlap between dancing and games is comprised of two regions. We got 15 here, and we know the total has to be 25. So that must mean there's 10 people right there. Okay, so 25 people like dancing and games, 15 like all three. Okay, now let's figure out these other regions here. So 45 people like swimming and games. Remember, S is the circle representing the swimming. Okay, so we're supposed to have 45 people in the overlap between the swimming and the games, which is this right here. We've already accounted for 15. All right, so pause the video a sec and try to figure out what should go here, right? We know the total should be 45. In both regions together, we've already accounted for 15. So we should have 30 right there. That makes the total work out to be 45. Okay, now up here they tell us 80 people like to swim and dance. We've already accounted for 15, so 15 plus what is going to give me 80? Okay, that should be 65, because 15 plus 65 gives me 80. Okay, so notice, once again, we're going from the bottom up. Fill out the middle, then fill out these regions, and now we're going to fill out the remaining stuff. Okay, so they tell me 65 people like games. So that's the entire circle for G. All the regions in G together have to total out to 65. Okay, so let's think about what would make that work. So we got 30 people here already, another 15 here, so that total is 45. We got 10 people here, so that's 55. We got to get to 65. So there must be 10 people in this region right here. Okay, 150 people like dancing. Let's look at what we've accounted for so far. We're looking at this circle labeled D for dancing. Okay, we got to get to 150 when we total out all the regions in this circle. So 65 plus 15, that's 80. That's 90 if we add in this 10. So 65 plus 15 is 80, plus 10 is 90. We got to get to 150, so there must be 60 right here. 135 people like to swim. So let's look at the circle S for swimming. Total of all regions has to be 135. Let's look at what we've accounted for so far. 65. 15, that's 80. 30, we're up to 110. So that must mean we have 25 people here. Okay. Now, there does remain the question of what number should go outside. Okay, now, at the very top, they told us we surveyed 240 people. Okay, so my universal set of all passengers surveyed should contain 240. So I got to look at everything I've put in here so far and total it all out. Okay, so 25 plus 65, that's 90. That's 150. 180. 200. 215. Okay, so if I total out all the numbers I put in here so far, I'm getting 215. I got to get up to 240. So that must mean there are 25 people out here. And now if I total out all the numbers that I put in the diagram, that should get me to 240. Okay, now I can answer some questions. Okay, so the questions that they're asking me in this problem are right here. Okay, so let's look at this right here. How many people like exactly 2 of the 3 activities? Now there's a couple of ways you could do that. Exactly 2. So in other words, these people are out. Okay, because they don't like exactly 2, they like all 3. We're talking about people that like swimming and dancing, but not games. We're talking about people that like dancing and games, but not swimming. And we're talking about people that like swimming and games, but not dancing. Okay, so we're going to have to add up some numbers here. 65, that's the number of people that like swimming and dancing, but not games. Remember, this 15 is swimming, dancing, and games all together. This is just swimming and dancing. So we're going to need the 65, the 10, and the 30, and it looks like that brings me to 105. How many people like only swimming? Okay, we can get this right from the diagram. Okay, if I total the entire circle for swimming, that includes people that like dancing, it includes people that like games, and people that like all 3. In this question, we want only swimming, so that's that 25 people right there that are away from the other 2 circles. Okay, so we didn't have to do anything for that. We just got the answer right there. How many people don't like any of the 3 activities? Well, that's that 25 people that are out here. Remember, we had 240 people surveyed. We saw that we had accounted for 215 in the various regions in the circle. That left 25 people on the outside. And that means those 25 people don't like either of the 3 activities. Okay? So, an important note here when you're working a Venn diagram problem like this. Start in the middle, okay? Get that middle region filled out first, then work your way out. And typically, when they tell you this problem, when they give you the information for this problem, the thing in the middle is going to be last. So we're working with this last thing first. That's the first thing that goes in our diagram, and then we work our way up. So start in the middle and then work up, and that's the best way to do these kind of survey problems. And also remember, that when they give me a piece of information like this that says 25 people like dancing and games, that is a total of 2 regions, okay? Dancing and games, that's the overlap between the set representing dancing, which is the circle D, and the circle G. The overlap between the 2 circles has to be 25 people. We already accounted for 15, so that means there's 10 left over, okay? So you have to use the 2 numbers together to figure out what to put here, okay?